This week on World Traveler Cooking, we're going to make Filet Americain. This is a Belgian style beef tartare. I had it recently this year when I went to Fostam in Brussels, and I very much like the dish, so I've decided to make it here. This is a dish that's often eaten in spring or early summer when the weather's not too hot. And of course you can eat it in restaurants probably through the summer, but you probably wouldn't pack it on a picnic in the summer because it's raw minced beef. People worry about food safety issues. So, as always, get your beef from a well-respected place and a place where you trust the quality and attention to detail on the handling of the beef. Beef is less risky than pork because people usually don't feed beef a lot of meat products. Well, it's the meat products for pork which in fact lead to some of the parasitic problems. So we have here for our ingredients a fairly large number of ingredients, but I promise you this won't be too hard. I have some Dijon mustard. Of course, I have some beef. Now, I actually have about half a kilogram of beef, so let's keep all this in mind. Half a kilogram is probably enough for 2 or 3 good-sized meals, and maybe 4 smaller meals. So that's probably what we'll do. Have some mayonnaise, tabasco sauce, just enough to give it a little bit of warmth. Worcestershire sauce. Salt and pepper, those are our main seasonings. To this we will add parsley and the yolk of this egg and some shallots. Now, normally I would say like 1 European shallot for like 300 grams of beef. So maybe I'll need some more shallots than this, maybe a couple more for, I would say 3 European shallots, 1 European shallot equals maybe 3 of these, so I probably need a few more. So, let's go ahead and get started. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mince this beef. You can do this with a meat grinder, or I think today, just because that can be a pain to clean, I'm going to mince this with a knife. So, I'll show you how to do knife mincing. It's not too hard. It does lead to a slightly different texture on the beef. So, first thing we'll do, mince the beef. And then we'll go from there. So before we start, it's important to make sure our knife is really sharp. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to very thinly slice this most of the way through, but not all the way through, at a 45-degree angle. And the reason for this is that this is sort of the first step in breaking down the fibers so that we get a nice texture at the end. Then I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to do the same from the other side. You need a really sharp knife for this. And it's really important to do this first step at a nice angle. And if you cut it through once all the way, that's fine. I'll show you how we do it afterwards. I mean, if it's a couple times, it's still okay. What you're going to find is that at this point it does kind of expand. So what we're going to do next is we're going to cut it straight down. No, I'm going to cut it again at an angle at a 45-degree angle after rotating it 90 degrees. Then I'm going to flip it over I'm going to do the same one more time. And then I'm just going to start mincing straight through. And I'll do that a few times. And I will get a nice mince. So I'm going to do this to all of my ½ kilogram of beef, and then I will be back. You can see how nice this is turning out. I'm just going to mince it a couple more times, and this part will be done, and then I'll move on to the others. And so here we have ½ kilogram of knife minced beef. Now if you were to put this through a meat grinder, it would be just a little different, but that's what we have. And usually I hand mince my beef for tartares because cleaning up the meat grinder is a bigger pain. So next I'm going to mince, I think, 6 of these small shallots that'd be similar to 2 European shallots, and I'll go ahead and let you watch me do that. So now I've peeled enough shallots, I think, to match about 2 European shallots. So I'm going to slice these, and then I'm going to chop them. I want them fairly finely chopped, so of course that has to start with a relative fine slice. Once I'm done with this, then my next step is going to be to start mixing things together. Now, one thing I might not have noted in the introduction is that a lot of people like to put capers in this. So do I, but the grocery store didn't have capers and they're kind of optional, so we're not going to put in capers today. But I will note that in the description, in the recipe section. So once I have these nicely sliced, then I just mince them. And again, I want them to be eventually very finely minced. So I'm just going to chop them repeatedly until they're finely minced, and then I'll be back. So here we have our finely chopped shallots. I'm going to add to this a bit of parsley, which I'll also finely chop, and then we will start mixing everything together. So this is just going to be a quick mince. And there we go. So next step, we're going to start mixing everything. So for this much beef, I'm going to start with mixing in 2 egg yolks. And I'm basically going to make sure this is well incorporated before I start adding the rest of the ingredients. So then I'm going to add the shallots and the parsley. And I'll stir those in, and then I will add the rest of the sauces. So this doesn't take too long. Then we will season this with the seasonings, and we'll go from there. So first I'm going to add the mayonnaise. We want just a couple teaspoons. Then the mustard. And here we want a bit more. And I'm going to stir that in, and then we will do the rest of the seasonings after that. I like to mix it in after each of these because nobody, in my view, probably likes to get a big glob of mayonnaise in any bite. So let's... Now the mayonnaise basically acts as sort of a substitute for adding some additional oil or fat of some kind. So you could, for example, like the Ethiopian dish version, which I've also covered on this channel, uses hot spiced butter. Well, this is sort of the equivalent of that. So I lost the clip, but I added about 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. And now this is another optional ingredient, but you can add just a dash of Tabasco just to give it a little bit of a hint of heat. Or you could even serve Tabasco on the side. Or you can do both. I'm going to do both. So from here, we are going to add black pepper and salt. And I would say for this maybe like half a teaspoon of salt. And basically we're going to stir this in until it's very well incorporated. Now if I was using capers, they would be the last thing I would add. So capers would be the last thing, and I would be very gentle as I would stir it with the salt and the pepper and the sauces. You're better to be just a little bit more aggressive. But here you go. And at this point you can taste and adjust. It's actually pretty good. Maybe just a hair more salt. Again, if I were using capers would add more salt, right? So make sure it's really well stirred. I think we're going to be ready to serve it. And now for the taste test. First I'm just going to taste a little of this by itself. This is amazingly savory. Not too salty, but you get the flavors from the Worcestershire sauce, the mustard, the shallots. This is actually really, really good. Now I'm going to try a little piece of this on a little bit of bread. I know a lot of people like it this way, but I prefer my bread and my tartare separate. This is really, really good as a tartare. Now, if you found this content interesting, I hope I've earned a like and a subscription from you. So please like, subscribe, and share this video. Helps this channel grow and helps me produce more of this content. Additionally, if you make a dish like this and you do it a little differently, I'd love to hear how. Please tell me in the comments. I think it's wonderful when we share these sorts of details. Recipes in the description. Bon appetit, and see you next week.